Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Weedon with WeNeedAVacation.com. I'm joined by Joan Talmadge. I don't think she needs much of an introduction at this point, but one of the owners of our company. How are you, Joan?
Just fine, Beta.
Good. Joan and I were talking the other day, and we were just discussing how the pandemic has impacted us both personally in our vacation rental business. Some of the things we realized were ideas that we've been sort of promoting on our site for a few years, in fact, but they're even more sort of impactful now, or they're even more relevant now than they were before the pandemic hit. So we just thought we'd share some of our ideas and wonder if you all haven't noticed some of the same things. I was going to start by saying that what I've noticed, we wrote a blog post about, we called it the Now Vacationer. We've just noticed that the whole booking process has just become so much more accelerated. It's condensed into what used to be at least a week or a few weeks between securing, verbally securing the reservation and then sending out the lease and waiting for that check to come back and everything. Now we can email that agreement. You can sign it through DocuSign. Online payments, of course, so just make the payment so quick. That's probably the biggest difference. It's saved us the most amount of time. Vacationers are really busy and they want to just button things up really quickly. And I think most of us homeowners kind of wanted to, so we can knock it off on our calendar. Joan, what have you noticed? What's one of the things that you've noticed?
Well, one of the things we've noticed in the last couple of years is that vacationers have higher expectations and are a bit more demanding than they used to be. Some of that comes from the fact that COVID brought to light vacation rental homes, and there were tens of thousands of vacationers who had never before stayed in a vacation rental, and they discovered the benefits of that. But they also are coming from a vacation experience where they would walk into a hotel and expect a hotel-like experience, and they brought those expectations, or at least some of them, to their rental home. So they expect to arrive and immediately start their vacation. They don't want to be doing a whole lot before they just start enjoying themselves. So it's just important to have your home as ready for them as you possibly can. A nice welcome note, a welcome gift, a package of activities that they can do, restaurants. Homeowners have been doing that for many years, but I think it's the need for it has just accelerated.
I've totally noticed that too, for sure. And a lot of our homeowners have told us that they're paying a little bit more and they're kind of expecting a little bit more, and we want to make them happy. So we usually try to do that. I've also noticed that they're booking earlier, huh, Joan? I mean, they're booking our homes, but we're hearing it from so many of our homeowners, right? That some of them in our Zoom meetings are saying that they're fully booked already by February. They were even last fall or by Christmas time or something by December. So I think that we believe that certainly that trend was starting a little bit already. And then when the pandemic hit, people were not able in the year of 2020, the first year of the pandemic, they were not able to, in many cases, to get the homes that they wanted because inventory had been reduced. You all know this. And they just wanted to make sure for the following 2 years, they wanted to make darn sure they're going to get them. So they start booking in the fall.
Right.
Oh, along that too,
they're also,
the other thing, sorry, I just remembered, is that our homeowners tend to be so generous with their repeat guests, but now with this sort of accelerated booking too, it's not the accelerated booking like I was speaking about earlier, but they book earlier. And so we all kind of need to hear from our repeat guests. We love them, we want to save time for them, but we need to get some commitments from them a lot earlier than we used to. A lot of our homeowners used to wait until January. And we really feel that they're missing out by doing that in some cases. Do
I
you have
agree.
any other?
Well, they're also, vacationers are also spending more time at the home than they ever did before.
Yeah.
It's a whole vacation experience, not just a place to hang their head and just, you know, sleep there. They really want to they want more fun and games. And so more people are adding things to their home.
That's true.
Things like cornhole or badminton, yard games. The A hammock is always such a popular thing for people. Fire pit, of course, that's ever increasingly popular. And you know, all the equipment for, say, a lobster bake or clam bake, you know, having the lobster pot and all the tools that you need for that. Beach chairs. I mean, the fewer things that vacationers have to lug and pack into their car, the better. You know, if you have a beach umbrella and beach toys, maybe even a wagon to cart your stuff to the beach if you're within walking distance, even a picnic basket. But also just remember that because they're spending more time at your home and they're perhaps going out to restaurants less because, well, first because of COVID, but now probably because, you know, restaurants are continuing to be crowded, especially, you know, in the summer weeks. So they're spending more time, they're cooking more, and just expect more wear and tear on your home.
Excuse me, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's going to be different this year for 2022, where it'll be interesting to see whether some of the events, so many of the events have been canceled the last few years. And this year, I think hopefully, you know, the 4th of July parades and some of these other events, maybe they won't be in the home as much, but I think we, as homeowners, we probably have to still make sure that the home is filled with those things, outfitted, so that they can enjoy.
Well, and it will be interesting to see if they start dining out more. I think so many restaurants have provided outdoor dining, and that probably won't go away. So perhaps you know, they will be able to accommodate more people, and they might, you know, go out to eat more.
Yeah, it's almost not as much what the mandates are, but are people going to actually feel comfortable? You're right. Are they going to feel comfortable going out as much? Probably better, more than they have the last 2 years, but maybe not back to normal. Kind of hard to tell.
Right. Yeah.
You were talking about clutter too, right? About the impact.
During especially that first year when we weren't sure how COVID was even spread, many homeowners took away items that some of which they have put back, but they decluttered, and they kind of liked the result, and their guests liked the result, and their cleaners liked the result. It was an easier home to clean. So, you know, vacationers want something casual, and relaxing. They don't want a lot of knickknacks around. They don't want to worry about their kids breaking something. So the less you have of that kind of thing, the better. And if you have an owner's closet, it's best to put away things that you either don't feel your guests really need, or you don't want to see broken. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, that we've always been sort of discouraging clutter. And some people think of it as, oh, they're beachy, it's beachy or knickknacks. But I think since the pandemic, you're right, that so many of us really realized finally that, okay, enough of anything that the cleaners don't have to clean around and vacationers don't have to be careful about. So absolutely. Finally, one of the other things that I noticed was about the linens, and it's so funny because what Joan and I found out is that we both have slightly different views on this. I definitely see her side too, if you call it that, but I think I know for years I always included linens, and I think as I got older, I was thinking more and more running up and down the stairs and making beds, because I used to feel that it was very important to have that turnkey experience. And I do get that. I know that it was very much appreciated by my guests when I provided linens and all the beds were made and so forth. But the pandemic was sort of my, okay, you don't have to do that anymore moment. And I found that, and I talked to other homeowners in the office. I spoke with other homeowners, and they said they agreed. And the COVID just made them say, I can't disinfect everything. I can't handle that much laundry and so forth. And I was really surprised when we looked on the site at the statistics to see, I thought there were so many people like me who were impacted by the pandemic and thinking, oh, we don't need to provide linens anymore. But in fact, we found that there was just an infinitesimal difference between before the pandemic and after. Weren't you surprised by that, Joan?
I was, but I think more and more newer homeowners are perhaps providing them. And I do think that the larger, more expensive homes, the vacationers who rent them almost expect that linens will be provided, or that rental linens will be provided. If they're coming from a distance, especially to the islands, I just think that, you know, providing linens is something that, just like the hotel experience. I mean, you don't show up at a hotel and bring your own linens, but I do think that there are people who, you know, would certainly, it makes it life of the homeowner a lot easier not to have to provide them. And if you don't, I mean, it's your choice, and many vacationers are perfectly fine with bringing their own. But just make sure that they know, and that you don't provide them. The worst thing that can happen is that people show up and they expect, because they had an experience before renting a home, and they expect to have them, and whoops, they're not there. So just make sure you contact them before they come, right before they come, or, you know, a week or so before, and remind them of what they need to bring and the size beds you have, so they can be prepared.
I used to always provide bed linens, but not towels. And it seemed like every time I communicated with them, I put something in there like, don't forget, your beds will be made, but there will not be towels. And I think it's because, you know, it seemed like a broken record. But how many times, excuse me, how many times a year, Joan, do we hear from homeowners or vacationers who complain that you know, oops, the homeowner didn't tell them? So certainly don't forget that.
Yeah.
I think linens, it's like pets too. It's one of those issues that there's just not a right or wrong. Here, Joan and I have slightly different feelings about it, but it's really such a personal decision. But again, as Joan says, just if you don't provide them, just make sure they realize it.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of communication, we've always emphasized the vital need for communication with your guests, but this has been enhanced in the last couple of years. Just the importance of communicating with your guests prior to their arrival and while they are in your home. And it's just every summer we get at least a couple of calls from frantic vacationers who are headed, you know, in the next hour or two to their vacation destination, and they say, we don't know where it is, or we don't know how to get into the house, and we can't reach the homeowner. And it's just that's not the right tone to start your vacation with.
And particularly, I think in the pandemic, before they get there, that it's so much better now, but for the last couple of years, they were so unsure of what what the mandates were going to be, you know, whether there was going to be a ban on rentals and just I mean, they just needed some reassurance. Maybe it was the cancellation policy, whether it's strict or lenient. Vacationers just kind of don't want to know. They want to know those things. So it sounds like a broken record. How often, whenever we meet, do we talk about communication? But again, I think it's just one of these issues that the pandemic's made just so much more important than even it was before that. So
yeah. Well, we just need to think of them as our guests. I mean, they may be paying, but they are guests in our home, and
yes,
it's just important to keep in touch with them.
right.
So I think that's it for now. I hope
so
that you can join us for our next Zoom meeting. And
good. We'll look forward to seeing you then.